Was there a situation that happened recently that you can tell me about that like caused you to go into a financial tailspin?
Um, Not super recently, but a few years back, 2024,
Hmm.
I believe it was. I was staying with my grandfather, trying to get on my feet financially. My whole family was, and we, my grandfather ended up sideswiping my van, my personal vehicle,
Hmm.
with his riding mower mowing the grass, and ended up totaling it, which put me in a point where
It totaled the car?
the
Jeez.
vehicle was valued at like 10,000 something, 11,000. I'd paid most of it off. Like my payments were affordable, everything was good.
Hmm.
Um, and then because he hit it the way he did, it went from bumper to bumper,
Hmm.
and it was minor cosmetic for the most part, but the passenger side door was a hole big enough you could put your hand in.
Oh wow.
And so when I had it appraised to figure out what the damages were, they said it was like $12,000 worth of damages. I'm sure.
Even if you were to just take the door off and put it back on?
Yeah, I, because I tried to find out if there were ways that it could just be fixed, and they said that because of the damage being side to side, the insurance company didn't want to just band-aid it. They wanted to get it back to where it was, or just kind of call it totaled.
Hmm.
So, like I said, that ended up totaling my vehicle. They paid it off, and I got a little bit back that I ended up having to use for a down payment on a new vehicle. And like I said, the way everything's set up. So once the insurance decided they were going to total it, they immediately stopped paying for a rental. So I had to start paying out of pocket. And it took
Right.
them a month to get me the check to go out and look at a new vehicle.
Hmm.
And then, being that at this point now I'm paying out of pocket for a rental and in a rush to try to find something with poor credit, I ended up getting a loan and financing a 2013 for like 28% interest. And
You have a car loan for 20 with 28% interest?
I believe it's 28. It's either 28, 27, or 29, somewhere in there within a percentage point. The
Whoa.
original loan was for 16,000. Like I said, I got that in 2024. My monthly payments are about $500 a month,
Hmm.
and I've obviously paid since then, and I've paid like 2 or 3 thousand off of the total loan because of how high the interest rate is.
Yeah, man.
So, like I said, that I feel like is the most prominent thing that comes to mind when I think of what started my tailspin financially.
28% is so high. It's like a credit card,
Oh yeah, and like I
But
said, I feel like on something that expensive, that high, should be illegal. But again, they they offered it. I was in a position where I didn't really have a option, and
so
so
for your job, like you have to have a car to get to your job.
so at the time I was living in North Carolina, and I worked at the airport,
Okay.
and I had to be able to get from where I lived to it, because again, most places that I've ever lived, you can't easily walk
Okay.
from where you live to where you work.
Right. And relying on public transit is out of the question as well.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
and that's the other thing with kids, being having to take them to a doctor's appointment
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
to school, or if there's an emergency, I needed a vehicle, and that was the other thing. I probably could have gotten something smaller, but it wouldn't have fit my whole family. It would have only fit,
How many
me
kids
and
do
a
you
couple
have?
of kids. My wife and I together, we have four together and then one each separate, if that makes sense. There's four that
Okay.
live
So
with us.
six in total?
Six in total, but four that live with us.
Okay. Okay.
I say that confusing, I'm sure. I'm sorry about that.
No, that's fine. So four of them live with you though.
Yes.
Okay. What year is the car?
It's a 2013.
2013. What kind of car is it?
It's a Mazda 5.
What else?
Um, I mean, like I said, since then it's just been, I think things are going to get better. At the time we moved into a place that was government assistant, so the rent was affordable and we could afford it. They knew how many people we had, even though we said, we needed a bigger place. They put us in there, and then
Because then it was too small.
Yeah, then they said it was too small, and then kicked us out, gave us notice, said, we had to vacate, relocate, and with just a short amount of notice, and couldn't find anywhere that we could afford in the area where I was working. Like I said, I was working at the airport, and so we ended up kind of bouncing around and have moved pretty much annually every year since then, which is not cheap.
So you already have the car, right?
Yeah.
And I guess before, and we're going to get into like the depths of your finances here. Thank you for sending everything over, by the way. I appreciate that. The one thing that I see that I also have battled with this in the past is like, all right, I need a car. Is there any way I can spend $5,000 to $7,000 on a car? And my question to you is, did you look? Did you look and see anything in that price range that would not have been that bad of a hit to your finances?
So
I'm not saying you made the wrong decision, by the way.
No,
like I want to know like what you saw out there when you were looking.
So at the time, like I said, looking for something at least big enough for my family, it seemed to be the only option. I also didn't really have a lot of money, even with the remainder of the insurance check after paying off the vehicle.
Yeah.
It was only a few thousand, and I didn't really have anybody I could ask for money from. I mean, I've borrowed money as I needed from family and done what I can to pay them back. But like I said, without sounding entitled or trying to sound entitled, the family that does help is the family who really doesn't have the means to, whereas the family that has the means to is the family who's like, well, this is your problem. Why can't you
figure in general
it out?
with people, right?
Right.
Like the people that are willing to give you everything that you would want or need are the people that usually don't have anything to be able to give.
Right. And they'll give what they can and help. And I try to do the same. I try to help if I can. If I have a few extra bucks and I know somebody who's needing food, I'll buy them a burger or something to help them so that they aren't hungry. Right. But like I said, it's one of those things where I feel like never a perfect answer or situation.
Right. But nothing came up in like a lower price range.
Not that I can remember. Like I said, we thought we were getting a good deal. But then, because we shopped around, we found some that looked okay, but they said that the monthly payment would be, kind of high, around $500. And we were like, well, we can probably find better. And then ended up not finding anything better. And then that car got sold in the process from the dealership. And so we ended up going to CarMax, which
So this car you bought from CarMax?
Yeah. Since then, I've heard a whole lot of horror stories and people saying never to shop at CarMax. But
yeah.
Again,
I've heard two sides of the aisle on that,
I mean, I guess it's better than absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I'm grateful that I have a mode of transportation.
And the car hasn't had any issues.
Nothing major, minor things that I've either worked on or, I've had people that I know that are mechanically inclined who will help me, but nothing major.
So before you got that loan, your credit was kind of shot from before that.
Yeah.
So what happened before that? And the only reason I'm asking is because usually, like, in my experience, if you learn to, like, if someone who knows how to manage their credit would learn how to manage as well their money. But I'm not saying that that's the case with you. Like, what happened before that kind of caused you to have to now take this high interest rate with this auto loan?
Honestly, the beginning to my financial and credit issues, when I was younger, I was married once before and it ended poorly. She ended up taking her life. And then,
I'm so sorry to hear that, man.
I appreciate it. But then, my credit was still decent. I was working, and doing okay. And I ended up meeting my current wife online, and I lived in North Carolina. She lived in Texas.
Mhm.
And, we talked and talked and talked. And, pretty much the same night that her and I first made a connection and had a conversation, I knew that I wanted to be with her.
Mhm.
And so I made a decision. I was going to move halfway across the country.
Right.
And I had a little bit of money,
Mhm.
but not that much. And so I, told my family, and I loaded up my car, and I moved and put everything on credit cards.
Okay.
And then it took, half a month or a month and a half to find a job and save up a little bit to get an apartment. And in the meantime, I was staying in a short-term hotel called In-Town Suites,
Mhm.
which you can pay, daily, monthly, or weekly. And it was expensive, but again, I put everything on a credit card.
Mhm.
And then once I got out of that and got into an apartment, at that point, it was just too much to catch up on.
Right.
And so that went into collections, and then just kind of eventually, I think I've handled it. I've paid off the amounts that I could and kind of settled it. But I know that's probably the beginning of where my
Yeah.
issues started. And then since then, like I said, it's been trying to rebuild and then a setback, and then trying to rebuild and a setback.
That's rough, man. That's rough.
I mean, again, I try to take accountability for my portion and my actions, and
But I mean, what happened to you is
right.
just like life changing. People don't go through that. Everybody doesn't go through that kind of thing. That's a huge thing that happened to you. Do you mind if I ask? Like, is that something that's still?
Yeah, it's still. I mean, I never worked through any of that stuff. It's one of those things. I don't know how you were raised or anything. For me, growing up, it was, guys don't have problems. They just ignore it, and so it's one of those things where things in life that have affected me like that, I've never really sought help or tried to confront. It's
Right.
just been, if you don't think about it, it doesn't exist. And so I just try to keep my head forward and keep moving.
I'm not a therapist.
No,
But I'll say this, because I'm from a culture like that as well. I'm from Jamaica originally, and it's a very masculine culture, so they don't talk about your feelings and that kind of thing. But having had friends that have dealt with suicide a lot, I think it's one of those things that you should definitely talk to somebody about, even if it's your wife, if she's the kind of person that you can open up to
right.
about, because that kind of thing tends to come out eventually, but I'm not a therapist. I just want to say that I would if I were in that position, I'd want someone to tell me, hey, talk to somebody about that. There should be no topics in your life that are like off limits to the point where you become debilitated by it, is my belief.
Right.
But I won't dwell on that here. But that's very heavy. And that kind of happened to you. You didn't do anything for that to happen.
If you enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment.